Hi guys, today I'm going to talk about INFJs and also just people with dominant introvert intuition, so INTJs as well. The question here is, or the theory is, that INFJs have kind of a different development than most people, considering the fact that they have dominant introvert intuition. INFJs are a relatively rare type and INTJs as well. The thing is that on average, it seems that sensors are definitely more common than intuitives, but it also seems that introverted intuition is also more of a rare thing than extroverted intuition. For example, there's a lot more ENFPs out there than there are INFJs. And this kind of seems to lead to a different development over the course of someone's life. Because you will see that there are like two extremes happening. Extroverted sensing and introverted sensing in the population, in the world population, are functions that are relatively common. And they are functions that are all about experiencing things. So people who have strong extroverted sensing or strong introverted sensing are going to be really focused on their real life experiences. They're going to be very focused on the physical world, the stuff that can be seen, that can be heard. But they don't like to think too much about the deeper meaning behind things because they see it as irrelevant to their life. They see it as a waste of time. So this is kind of what most people do. And the thing is, what you will see is that they are very good at handling their life, managing their life, but they are not as good at knowing what they want, making the right choices, or seeing what's coming in the future, predicting things. So on the other side of it, you have introverted intuition is a function, the dominant function from INFJs and INTJs, which is the exact opposite of extroverted sensing. Which means that introverted intuitives have an imbalance with intuition and sensing, because every type has an imbalance in something. And I would say that this imbalance of intuition and sensing is a bit more rare than the other way around, where sensing is neglected by INFJs and INTJs. Sensing is neglected, whereas most people value it, which might also make INFJs very easily misunderstood by people. The thing is that they are not only neglecting sensing, but they're also introverts, which makes, I think, them even more easily misunderstood, because their inner world is not always very obvious to other people. And the thing is that INFJs will be more focused on understanding things, and they will basically value that understanding of things more than actually living, in a sense. They'll still do it, but that's the thing, everyone uses both. Everyone uses sensing and intuition, but whenever there's an imbalance, you're still going to see that even though INFJs, they have to, live, obviously, they will value understanding more than their actual experiences. They will look back on an experience, and whatever it really means to them in the bigger picture of their life or in the bigger picture of existence, that's what they care about more than the actual memory or the actual experience, how it felt. They care more about what it means in the bigger picture of things. So you will also see them not really care too much about sensory experiences. There has to be a point to what they're doing. They always feel like what they do needs to have like a reason behind it rather than just for fun. So what they do is they prefer to be focused on understanding life, working on themselves, understanding themselves, and not being focused on what's real in the physical world, being more focused on imagining possibilities. And this makes for a certain difference where, most people seem to live their life in a way where they like to engage. They like to just get into it and live, have tons of experiences, just already starting when they're young, just experiencing all these things. And that's what they want to do. And they learn from those experiences, but they also often haven't necessarily really figured out what they want in life, or what's the meaning of life, or that kind of stuff. They might not even be too concerned with future planning and being more focused on just living and experiencing. And that's why there's also this idea of the midlife crisis, right? Where people in the middle of their life, they suddenly start wondering, what do I actually want? Is this really what I want? And stuff like that. And kind of starting to think a bit more deeply about their life and what it means and that kind of stuff. So I want to post this theory, which I think also aligns with what a lot of people say about INFJs being old souls and stuff like that. That I think INFJs, INTJs probably as well, that they kind of have not a midlife crisis, but kind of like a start of life crisis, where they kind of feel like they need to have everything figured out like at the beginning of their life. And it's almost like they can't really live until they figure things out. I mean, they'll still do it, but it will still be on their mind a lot. Just the need to figure things out and understand the deeper meaning of life more than living. And I feel like that makes them seem kind of like wise people for their age, maybe. But they will also have this problem where it can be that they have themselves figured out what they want and what life means to them, but they haven't necessarily maybe experienced a lot of things. They have maybe been kind of in their head more than actually experiencing things. It might be that they understand things on a very deep level, but their real life they might not be very successful, and almost dismissing sensing, almost valuing all these ideas in their head, valuing them more than the physical world, basically. And that's why I think most people start their life by just living, and then they have a midlife crisis or something. And INFJs and INTJs kind of just start their life with a start of life crisis. And then later in life, what happens is, the thing is, usually later in life, people kind of start developing their lower functions more, So I feel like for INFJs later in life, they are going to develop their extroverted sensing finally. They're finally going to develop that more. And then they're actually going to start living. Whereas for most people, it's the other way around. And then later in life, they suddenly start developing their introverted intuition, or they start developing their extroverted intuition. But it doesn't come, it takes time for them. And yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there. So, INFJs might seem like they are wise, but engaging is more difficult. There's especially also this difference where extrovert intuitives, even though they will really care about looking beyond the physical and kind of thinking about how things are connected, thinking about what things mean, they will still want to apply it in the real world all the time. So they will still engage with the world. Whereas INFJs and INTJs, since they're introverts, they're not very inclined to do that. They're more inclined to figure these things out in their head. Whereas extrovert intuitives will want to figure things out kind of together with people, brainstorming, thinking out loud more than having it all inside their head. So yeah, for INFJs, it's this thing where they want to figure life out first and then actually live. And then most people is kind of like, they want to live first. So, INTJs and INFJs will run into different issues. For example, INTJs might run into an issue where they might find it difficult to connect with people. They are not necessarily very focused on people or interested in people that much. And they might also have difficulty with naturally understanding people. And that might make it a bit more difficult for them with social stuff. That's mostly because they have extroverted feeling blind spot. So they will still be in touch with their feelings and emotions and values because they have introverted feeling as their tertiary function. But they will not be very in touch with other people's values. And then for INFJs have an entirely different problem. It's kind of like they understand people too much almost. So it's kind of like they have this thing, they have extrovert feeling. The thing is, extrovert feeling is focused on other people's needs, other people's emotions and stuff like that, other people's values. Also expressing their own emotions too, but a lot on other people. And, it's also a bit focused on body language. But if you pair this with introverted intuition, which is all about understanding and seeing how things connect, seeing patterns, predicting how things will play out. We have this thing where INFJs are a bit less good at understanding systems, which I think INTJs will be really good at. And then INFJs are a bit better at understanding people and psychology and stuff like that, which is also why you will see a lot of INFJs interested in psychology. But this also means that they have a very deep understanding of other people's emotions. And what kind of happens is that apparently they get really easily overwhelmed. And I personally have this too. And I think this can lead to this thing where a lot of INFJs might be very empathetic. They might even be highly sensitive people, very sensitive to especially other people's emotions. And it might be really hard to deal with it when other people show very negative emotions, for example. Whereas other people might be able to ignore it. They will internalize it. They will notice body language and even tiny things. And they will immediately internalize it and know exactly what kind of emotion this other person is feeling. They might start feeling it themselves, and if it's an emotion that they don't want to feel, it can kind of feel like other people's emotions are attacking you basically, and it takes away from your energy. It's tiring as well, and that's why INFJs can tend to isolate more, where there's this really weird contradiction that INFJs can have. Extroverted feeling makes them want to be around people and want to connect with people because that's a part of extrovert feeling. It's a very social function. But because they are introverts and they are very sensitive to people's emotions, they can get really tired easily from people as well. So that's kind of a contradiction. I feel like INFJs can have this thing where they love and hate people at the same time. Where I think you have I feel like you have this stereotype where INTJs hate people, and I think that's because they don't have extrovert feeling. It's more easy for them to hate humanity and people in general, INFJs is this it's almost like a fight, I think, within them, where it's like, I want to be with people and I care about them, and they're still feelers, you know, so it's really important to them. But at the same time, they also have dominant introvert intuition, and they might also really see the bigger picture and the bad things about humanity, and kind of like also getting overwhelmed by everyone's emotions. Anyhow, they also have good foresight abilities, like seeing things coming. And they might see things coming before anyone else does. You know, they might also see things about people that no one else does. For example, they might have a bad feeling about someone, and then years later people are like, oh yeah, that person, they did this bad thing, and then they might be like, yeah, I already knew that something was up, you know, because their introvert intuition is really good at figuring out people, because it's paired with extrovert feeling, you know, by pattern recognition. Their intuition recognizes a lot of patterns just unconsciously. Whereas for sensors, it's more difficult to notice these patterns, and they might therefore be more like not as good at predicting how things are gonna go, or maybe what are the right choices for them in life and stuff like that. Kind of leading to INFJs being more passive in a way where they feel like they know exactly what they should and shouldn't do, which can also hold them back in a way, because they often know, but they can't know everything. So it might also make them not try things even when it is a good idea. And for sensors, it's this thing where they might be making the wrong decisions more often, but they also learn from it a lot. You know, they also learn from their experiences, which is something that introvert intuitives have less of. So I moved for a second because it was more convenient. And I wanted to say that it can also be this thing where INTJs and INFJs, where they can kind of seem like they think too much. To them, I would say reflecting feels more natural than living, in a way, than experiencing. So yeah, I think that's basically what I wanted to say for the reasons why it can seem like INFJs and INTJs live their life in a sort of backwards way compared to most people. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.